Hey there, everybody. Chris Renshaw here. Just wanted a heads up that this episode's going to be a little bit weird. We had some computer and network issues go on, so I'm having to stitch together the bits of video that I do have from when we were streaming. And we had an interview that I was going to be playing pre-recorded anyway, so I'm going to stitch that in here. So pardon, because the news is just going to kind of dramatically cut off and then go next to the interview, but that's just the way it is, and it was too much work to try and reschedule and just redo everything for just the sake of that. So enjoy. I hope you enjoy, and we'll get right into the episode.
Warning.
Watch very closely now. 3, 2, 1. Bzow! Check that out.
The following podcast features terrible jokes.
You know you can use Hot Wheels cars when you need to make a saving throw in D&D? Every car is die-cast.
Usually about board games.
We want the fun. Gotta have that fun.
Must insist that no one attempt to recreate any joke performed on this podcast.
We had less technical issues than $1 million company.
All right!
This is Boards and Swords.
Hey out there, everybody. Welcome to Boards and Swords. This is a podcast featuring bad jokes, good folks, and some tabletop games. Who am I? My name's Chris Renshaw. I'm one of your hosts. Let me flip it over to the man over there, Mr. Philip Herbig.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the start of Halloween week.
Halloween.
News.
All right. Now that we've, gotten over the internet being troublesome and stuff, let's talk some news. Let me get actually the right page up. And my friend told me to buckle down and get my to-do projects done. So he was confused when I went and bought a bunch of mustard. Apparently, he didn't tell me to get down in the Frenches. So, remember Trench Crusade? They had that big, multi-million-dollar Kickstarter last year where it was all STL files and everything. Well, now they're going to do plastic minis like every other game.
Okay.
So, surprise reveal at Essen Spiel. Trench Crusade has announced a new range of hard plastic minis, starting with a full-boxed Prussian warband. So just in case you didn't remember so Trench Crusade is the game where it's like back during the Crusades, we accidentally opened a portal to hell, and now it's World War I, but like with demons. So, Trench Crusade...
So like the prequel to Hellboy.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Trench Crusade is fine, except for, was Hellboy, that was still secretive though, right?
It was secretive. It was also World War II. Yeah.
But Trench Crusade is nope, it's very much the world is aware. The game is making the transition from 3D printed resin to full-blown hard plastic miniature plastic miniatures in boxes, and it's starting in a place no one suspected, a boxed warband for the Free State of Prussia, which is already available to pre-order and is intended to go on sale in local game stores soon. So it's spent the last year putting together an amazing team of artists, sculptors, and engineers to make this transition to plastics possible, and cause this initial Prussian war box the first step in the future of Trench Crusade. So, Trench Crusade models are still being sculpted by various members of the huge team. These box kits are actually being manufactured by Archon Studios. I didn't know that.
Cool.
That name's going to sound familiar because I think our literal next story is about about them. The Poland-based plastic molding giant behind the new Starcraft tabletop miniatures game. So, original plan was to take things slowly, concentrating on 3D printing, but 3D printing comes with a lot of issues, especially when dealing with the high demand we're now facing. Yeah, so normally it's really hard to do, plastic minis, because it's not 3D printed, you can just make the mini, sculpt the model, ta-da! When you're doing plastic like this, you have to disassemble the model, and then, for building, and then, unless you're just doing all one sculpt kind of thing, but even then you got to do tooling and all sorts of stuff, and that costs a lot of money. However, when you get $3.3 million, that kind of helps.
You've got a little buffer to work with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trench Crusade's announcement says it gave them the means and the confidence to develop the game much faster, much faster than we originally planned. So I think this is the box set. I was trying to see if I can get a bigger picture. Not one that's clear at all. So you get, here we go. Let's see, the Prussian Strasstruppen. Did I say that right? Philip is a resident German expert.
Well, I mean, I've forgotten most of my German.
So, you
I can
get
still call you an asshole.
one Hauptmann, one lieutenant, one trench cleric, 3 stormtroopers, and 3 yeomen, for $50. That's not bad. November 22nd, 2025. I'm curious what that means for shipping, though. Like, is that $49.99 plus shipping? It has to be. That has to be plus shipping. So here we got some pics of the minis here. Each model has variant builds, so yeah. Every model in these
variant build, it says? Oh, nice.
Yeah, well, that means like that means it's probably got arms, like, you know, like that's where some like it gets disassembled, so you can put different bits on it. Unlike regular units in the factions, every model in these hard plastic squads has a molded plastic base, giving a bit more atmosphere without the need for custom basing materials. So like normally, like your what that means is like normally your minis would have like just flat bases, like just the generic.
And you got to add your rocks and your grass and stuff.
Right,
yeah.
but like characters, like if you get like a special character, it usually has like that stuff molded into the base, or like it has pieces that you can then glue on. So you don't necessarily have to do that as much. But they're saying every figure is going to have that. This is a variant list for the larger New Antioch faction. The full rules are already live for free. These guides will not only be available on our website, but also via QR code on the back of the box. That's pretty slick. It means you don't even need to like purchase it. You could just be like, oh, how do these play? Scan, read the like
and
quick faction rules and be like, that sounds cool. Purchase. Or that sounds cool. Or that doesn't sound cool. Pass. But so they don't have any other insights yet on what's coming, but I imagine a lot of that's going to be based on like how well does this do?
Yeah.
Especially with it being a small company. But I figured it was only a matter of time before we got like whatever's next for Trench Crusade, because like you got to figure right now everyone's into the game that's going to be in the game. As far as like the Kickstarter backers, you got to have something else to like get new people, whether that be convention, like people playing it more at conventions and whatnot. But yeah, there's a small but dedicated group of people at our local store playing. But all right. Moving on, we already kind of dropped some hints here, but if you suddenly see a celebrity while you're out and about, would you say that you've been startled? So, speaking of Archon Studios, they revealed, also at Essen, they revealed some minis from the Starcraft tabletop miniatures game for Wave 1. Their CEO said there's a release roadmap for 9 years minimum. So, not only is there a full army of miniatures already on show for the Terran, Protoss, and Zerg factions, but when I interviewed Archon CEO about the game, he had some very exciting news. The roadmap is for about 9 years minimum. Archon is in it for the long haul. To call the team at Archon StarCraft fans is an understatement. I think we kind of got that by the fact that they named their studio Archon Studios.
A little bit.
They say StarCraft is how I met my business partner. We started playing StarCraft in '98. The company's name is a nod to a Protoss unit. No figure. It was always for this dream for this company to make StarCraft. On the first page of the incorporations documents for the company, it says Road to StarCraft. So, the dreams of one day. Okay, now let's see. So I guess they started off making dungeons and lasers things where they've used to represent everything from lightning to ghosts.
Oh, okay. Clear polystyrene proof. I was like, what does that have to do with? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Clear polystyrene sprues. I was imagining a Protoss Archon miniature made almost entirely from clear plastic with only those pieces of armor on top of it. I was thinking, oh god, we don't have the technology for that. We have to create a new technology to make those models and be sure that you can use plastic glue to assemble the model instead of super glue like other companies. Yeah, so like, especially you get models like I've recently come around to using plastic glue instead of super glue because it kind of like welds the plastic together instead of.
Oh yeah, it does a little, melts the wrong word,
Yeah,
but
I
like it
think
melts a little bit just to.
Because I think part of it is it contains acetone in it.
Mhm.
So like it does a little bit of the melting and welding it together. It gets very stringy. That's the problem I've been having with some of the minis is like you get like when it gets like messy and then you get kind of like stringy, you have to kind of go in and like clean it up a little bit with some of the knife. But like if you have something like resin minis, like the Forge World minis, you can't use or even 3D printed. If you're 3D printed resin, can't use plastic glue for those. Also like plastic glue because it doesn't set as quickly as super glue. And you also don't glue your fingers together. But
but that's a canon event, man. You gotta.
I know. But it doesn't set as quickly, so like especially when you've got like the two hands where you like got to get both of I hate two-handed weapons. They're so like trying to align both of those things just right. Plastic glue, you could just be like, all right, give me some time to like wiggle this around and there. It took them can you imagine knocking on Blizzard's door for 6 years being like, we want to make your game.
We want to give you money to allow us to make money with your IP.
Although I guess it wasn't. So that first sentence is a little misleading because, like, it makes it sound like they just didn't respond for 6 years. Yeah. But it sounds like it might have been started. Like there were some people like, okay, we're interested, and then the Microsoft takeover happened, and that kind of like postponed everything. So. We've had a flawless approval process, so that's one of the reasons why we're able to go from milestone to milestone. Oh, look at those minis, though.
Those do look pretty sweet.
Like, how long ago did StarCraft come out? 98. So we are 3 years away from the 30th anniversary
of original Star. Yeah, and then in my head, I'm laughing to myself because it's like 9 years minimum. I'm like. Didn't it take like 10 or 12 years to get StarCraft 2?
Yeah, but you know what the fun part is? Like, StarCraft 1 and the expansion came out the same year. Like...
Oh, so they were already there.
Like, Blizzard doesn't do that these days. But, like, they brought out the expansion to their game later that same year. Like, part of me is like, I just want to like take these and proxy them in 40K.
Right. It took 12 years. Came out in 2010.
Yeah. Holy
And then
crap.
It was 3 completely separate games.
What was he talking about? Oh, the Goliath Walker being broken up into components. So apparently Goliath Walker is going to be like the size of Imperial Knight.
Okay. Okay, that's what that is. Because I kept looking at it, I'm like, what the hell's that chicken walker? I don't remember that.
I don't know if that's the Goliath or if that's just another mini. That might be the Marauders. Because he says it's like the CAD program showing the Goliath Walker. Let's see. The Sentry Kit, making use of the translucent plastic to create an inner energy core surrounded by another waveform of energy with regular plastic for arm. I mean, that's kind of cool. Let's see if I can get this to be like bigger so that I can see. Oh yeah, like here you can see the clear. I mean, it's super fast, but you can see the clear plastic. That's ridiculous. Holy crap. That's crazy. That plastic. So I don't think they've shown any pics of it. Nobody's like painted it yet, but that's crazy. That amount of detail and in clear plastic.
Yeah.
While the Protoss range makes the most use of the translucent plastic, it's present everywhere. Optional muzzle flare. Like, that's dope. You just like glue some like little muzzle pieces on there. Energy force fields, translucent bug wings, helmet visors, mineral crystals. That is so cool. Here we go. Here's the Zerg Queen. Oh, apparently Kerrigan is still in prototyping.
Oh yeah.
But it's like, like the minis look cool. Am I gonna play a Starcraft Minis game? Probably not. Would I take those models and use them in other games? Most likely. Like especially any like on any sort of
Any agnostic?
thank you. That's what I was asking for. Any agnostic game, I would use these. Space Station Zero, Stargrave. Hell yeah.
Yep.
Hell, I'd use them in Necromunda. But I mean, it's just like I don't
No,
want another.
That would be.
I don't want another giant, ridiculous army-size game.
Get a handful of them. Okay. Just get like 2 or 3. Paint them up as whatever legion you're using in Warhammer.
Yeah.
And sneak them onto the field. See if anybody notices.
No, I would do like the whole thing. I would do the whole thing and see if anybody notices. But maybe, just like a one, especially like the Zerg would be funny. Just like do the whole army of the Zerg and be like, huh, what type of Tyranids are those? And like very special ones.
Oh, it'd be like that. See, just have one guy and have it be like that. What was the weird Magic the Gathering stuff they had way back in the day?
Which one? Oh. Like the like unhinged.
Yes, that kind of stuff. Yeah, it was like if you can sneak this card into play with nobody noticing for an entire round,
right?
It stays on the field. Unglued.
Yeah, there was a bunch of them. Unglued, unhinged. Unglued was the first one, I think, and then unhinged was the second one. That was the one I managed to play some. Let's see. We're still designing packaging. Basically, in the game is being designed still. We plan to open pre-orders probably in January, February next year with shipping around March. We have loads of StarCraft things in production at the moment. Zerglings being mass-produced. Marines being mass-produced. Marauders. Let's see. Yeah, so that'll be great because March, that'll be right in time for Adepticon.
Okay, yeah.
That'll be cool. Maybe if I go to Gamma Trade Show, like as planned, maybe they'll have something there I can try out. All right. I was recently confused because one of my coworkers was walking around with a boot full of milk. When I asked him about it, he said he wanted to do something legendary. So, this one kind of, I haven't done a board game news story in a while, but this one made me go, huh. In sort of a, Well, that was unexpected, but at the same time, feels like this should have happened a while ago. But uh, the DC deck building game kind of had to go through its run with Cryptozoic because I haven't heard many new things for that, but I could be out of the loop on it. But the Legendary deck building series is getting the DC universe. With Upper Deck's latest installment of their hit deck building game.
Champions! What?
I mean, close. And yeah, the this year's Gamma's in Louisville, but our local store owner wanted me to go with them since I have all the ins and outs. I have all because I kept. So funny story about that is I just kept texting them last year, like all these plays, like check out this person, that and that person. Next, she was just like, "All right, I'm just gonna bring you next year." So, Buffy and Big Trouble, I've heard both of those are pretty good. But yeah, Upper Deck will release Legendary, a DC deck building game, in 2026. After a decade of running with the Marvel characters in the Legendary deck building game, Upper Deck has changed over to the DC universe for the next installment of the game. In Legendary DC deck building game, players will cooperate and compete against each other to defeat villains by drafting cards with their favorite DC superheroes. It will feature new content and new DC Comics artwork using the same general game mechanics created in 2012. Yeah. So, Legendary is one of those games that I've actually... it's one of the few games that I've bought it twice and sold twice. Because like it was one of the first games I bought really early on. Because like love Marvel stuff. And then I just didn't play it enough and I sold it. And then literally I watched Avengers Endgame and I was like, I need to play a cool Marvel game. And then
I gotta get back in.
and then Marvel Champions came out and I'm like, no, this Marvel game. So that I just sold it again. But I don't know.
Well, if you buy it a third time, you have to keep it.
Why is that? Third time's a charm?
It's I mean, yeah, rule of threes. There's like...
Yeah. But I mean, it's different, isn't it? It's technically a different game if I buy the DC one, right?
There you go. There you go.
So I was talking about, I literally bought the base Marvel game twice. So, I'll be interested to see, like, the way this sounds, it sounds as if it's just a single box set, but I'm wondering if maybe they're testing it to see what it does. But like, obviously this could be like a huge thing. Like, there could be several different boxes of several different comic stories.
Yeah.
All right, I just need me a Blackest Night one. I'm in. Okay.
Blackest Night. And then Flashpoint.
Flashpoint, yeah. Hey there, everybody. Chris here again, and I am here with Erin, the CEO of Rollacrit. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. So for someone that, has probably someone who's never been to a convention before, what is Rollacrit?
So Rollacrit was built from the ashes of ThinkGeek. And what it really is what we were trying to build, at least when we started, and the vision of the company was a lifestyle brand for tabletop. There wasn't any in the space that we really saw that was something that was, taken over. When I worked at ThinkGeek for a while, and let's just say that's the whole point that this started, is we were all ThinkGeek employees.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Corporate. Yeah, we were all ThinkGeek employees. That's how it started. I mean, once you work at a place like that, it's hard to find a job anywhere else that you actually can love. So it was such an amazing place to work. It was very unique, and I was honored to be able to work there for as long as I did. But when GameStop acquired us in 2015, they eventually ended up shutting us down in 2019 and just folding everybody in. And so when that happened, it was at San Diego Comic-Con 2019, and I vowed then to resurrect some sort of other form of ThinkGeek in some sort of way. And so that was the mission. But for ThinkGeek, it started more as like coding, a lot of science and coding puns and stuff like that. Then turned into more pop culture, video games, and pop culture references for Star Wars, Star Trek, licenses like that. And so, in the time that ThinkGeek started in 1999, that was an easier place to get into for licensing, and it was a little bit more affordable than it is today. So starting another version of this type of company was going to be tough. And so, I said, what we've really underserved at the time that I was there was the tabletop community. And I was a big Magic card player at the time, and we had a lot of really cool ideas. We had Dungeons and Dragons as a license, but we didn't really do much with it. And so, because you could only make so many products at one time, and we had Star Wars and Minecraft and all these other things that that were really hot at the time. And so, and now hot again. But and so, really, it was a lot of really cool product pitches that just kind of fell flat because, again, there's only so much bandwidth. So we're like, well, we have a lot of really cool ideas. Tabletop's a really awesome space. It hasn't been overcrowded yet, full of, you still have hardcore real fans there. Not saying that new fans of like Star Wars and things like that are not real fans. That they are, and they're welcome for sure. But it's more of, you don't just crawl into going to Gen Con just randomly after the first year of playing a game. Like you're an avid fan, and you know what you're doing, you know where you're going. And so that's the kind of fans we were used to serving and what we like to serve. And so that was the goal. The goal was to do that. And so in 2020, built that up, got a bunch of ThinkGeek Ronin to kind of help out. Everyone had different jobs. I had a consulting gig and things like that. So we were still working on the side, but building this in the background. And then the site launched. It was a soft launch because we didn't really have we didn't have an email list. We didn't have anything. And so we kind of just floated around a little bit with some brand products. And we were building out Heroes of Arcadia. That was one of the artists that worked at ThinkGeek at the time. He works at Lego now in Denmark, and was pitching. I was giving him some sort of art project for a shirt. Yeah. And he ended up pitching. He's like, hey, that game RPG, I finished that game. That'd probably be a really cool thing if you want to try to publish something like that. And so I was like, oh, no way. So RPG was an April Fool's Day joke at ThinkGeek in 2016. And it did really well, but it was just a very expensive thing to make because you're putting cups into a game. And it was just it wasn't even finished. It was a joke product. So we got as far as convincing people it was real when nothing was actually made. And so, he ended up finishing and building the rules 5 years later. And so we worked together on it, making it something that, building the packaging out, refining some of the rules, and just kind of getting to figure out how we can make this. Because we make product. I'm not a seasoned game publisher at all, nor do I know how that even works, which now I've learned a lot on how that works since then. But at the time, it was just a product. Everything's all made of plastic. This is something that we can do. Quality is there. Let's make sure that this is a really cool, the game is great, but also that the quality of the pieces and the product itself are great. And that's our MO and what we've always wanted to do. So we work a little slow because that's just the way we wanted to build up Rollacrit. And so the game ended up being so much fun that it was like, this was a no-brainer game as something that was a lighter way to get people to the table, which is kind of what we were trying to be. We wanted to be the welcoming crew. Right. You're getting in the tabletop and you're just becoming a fan of that stuff. Come to us.
The first hit's
you
free.
Won't feel intimidated at all. Yeah, we're not the old comic book store of like everyone's judging you because you don't read certain comics that they like or something like that. It's like where you don't know the big heady board games, you can't terraform Mars and all that stuff. Come over here. This is a tile-based, dungeon crawling drinking game. So it's a lot lighter to get people into, but the mechanics of it were complex enough where it's not boring for someone who's seasoned, but also a little bit more of a thought process for someone who's playing for the first time, and it's less intimidating. And you could take what you learned on that and move it to the next game. And so to us, it was great. We've never done a Kickstarter. We had no funding except for whatever was in my bank account. And so that's kind of what we ran off of, was a lot of friends' favors, sweat equity, and whatever money I had, called together in the time for saving just for this exact moment. And then I had a partner, my friend from college, ended up having a different path in his life. He left Apple. He worked there for a long time. And then he matched my contribution and became my partner. We launched the Kickstarter, and then history was made. From there, the lifestyle part of Rollacrit kind of moved to the side because, we thought it was going to be a nice way of saying that we were, the new ThinkGeek without really saying it by putting the Kickstarter out and just publishing it. So we were just like, we just want to see it printed. This is a lot of fun. We spent a lot of time on this. Like, let's see what we could do. And then it ended up becoming what it became. And, it really didn't stop since then. So that was at least the start of what Rollacrit became, or was, and now is. And so it's been growing a lot since then. We've obviously had a lot of Kickstarters since then, but it was catching lightning in a bottle for sure, but it was also a lot of passion and experience behind it in the space, and just fans. So we're fans making cool stuff.
It's kind of very mind blowing because because it just how the COVID has warped my perception of time, because when you were talking about like, not existing before like 2020, I'm like, really? I felt like it's been around for a while, but then again, talking about it.
No, of course, right, yeah.
Just because I guess I'm just used to seeing the merch booths at Gen Con, and then that became like, that was how I first got introduced to Rollacrit, was through the Gen Con merch booths and all the t-shirts and the official Gen Con branded stuff. But I guess it must have been somebody else prior to
it was Offworld, right? Yeah. So
that's right.
When we launched, that's what we were like, we were grabbing at anything we could possibly grab at, because, now it's like, how do we make this a viable business, and how do we, get this up? Because right now we have the Kickstarter that we're running, and that's awesome. But what we ended up doing was, I ran the events department for ThinkGeek, and I started it. And so we went to a lot of shows, and I knew the value of going to shows, and I liked going to shows. I ran it from soup to nuts for years. And so, we're like, okay, well, what's this? Let's go to Gen Con. Gen Con was always on the ThinkGeek list for a while, but we couldn't do it in the time it had, because it was right after San Diego Comic-Con, and that was a big show for us. So it was hard to be able to get that on our schedule logistically. And so I knew Gen Con was a place we wanted to go, and I'm like, well, let's go there. Let's see what they're doing and start researching, what kind of merch they're making, what they're doing, and see if we can kind of help out. And so that's when I discovered Offworld. And right when I signed up for their email, I don't think I've ever said this story, but yeah, once I signed up for their email to be notified about, things that they send out, the first email I got from them was that they were retiring. And so I was like, oh, okay, well, it's time to build a deck as fast as humanly possible to see if we can throw our hat in the ring to become, their merch vendor. And so that's what we ended up doing. It was just, so it's still an old ThinkGeek team. So we're all just putting stuff together of like, here's all the things we've ever made, and here's all the stuff that we think we could do for you. And this is, a great opportunity for both of us. They, brought us in. I know they had a lot of people, applying for the same position. And then they ended up giving it to us. So we were super lucky, but we were also like, okay, well, this is post-COVID now. This is 2021. I know 2020 was the online, version of Gen Con.
Right.
And then 2021 came, and I was like, we're just going to be a bunch of shirts on a table, just trying to underpromise what our expectations were. But, through that time, it was between running that Kickstarter and fulfilling all of that stuff, getting ready for Gen Con, which we, had to learn a lot from Offworld. And that was what we're lucky about getting, is Offworld gave us a ton of information, a ton of data on just what people want, what people like, things that worked, things that didn't work. They were a really good partner in giving us a lot of that information. And also we bought, a lot of their booth from them and things like that. And so if it wasn't for them giving us a lot of the onboarding, we would have fell on our face for sure in our first year. And in some ways, depending on who you talk to, is like, we made 500 ear pins that year, which, because, that's an exclusive. So
Right.
there's so many ways. And people went crazy and they were so angry about that. I was like, but it's an exclusive. Like, I'm used to San Diego Comic-Con is that, like, majority of the people don't get what they were standing in line for because it's a limited edition, which builds the value and people like that. But they're, when you're not used to that, they're like, no, we get the year pin every year. And so that is a mistake year pin where if, you don't have 2021, that's definitely our fault. But, then we learned a lot from that and tried to build up of, what are the things that people want. And it's been, I think finally we got into the groove. It took a couple years to kind of read what some of the comments were and, learn from Gen Con as well, and also just see what kind of form factors we had. Now, since COVID, obviously, we've had a lot of interesting limitations with, there's still actually, as much as people don't want to hear it, like there still was a lot of disruption to service and production of things for years to follow, right? Because there's just factories that shut down, people that quit, a lot of industry knowledge went away. And so things just weren't the same ever since COVID. And now what we're dealing with now with tariffs, that's another huge new wrench in the game. And so it's been a lot of behind the scenes is very, very long hours for an entire year of prep for one weekend that is either going to do well and people are going to like it, or people are going to hate us for something, or like something else is going to come through. But that's kind of what we are excited about. I love that fans are passionate. I love reading the comments. I love when people give us feedback, whether it's angry or not. And so we're used to that. We were at ThinkGeek for so long. I'm used to that customer telling you, but it's better than a customer not saying anything and then just not buying from you ever again. And you don't know why. Right. I'd like to hear that, hey, this is the feedback I have. I don't like this shirt because of this. Like, okay, awesome. Well, we'll see what we could do next year to see if we can accommodate all of the comments that we have and see if we can get that in, if it makes sense logistically, or if we can even get the supply of what we need. And so, I don't know. We've had a lot of fun since we got that. We also, at the time, too, signed a license with Catan to make product for them. So it was a 3-pronged thing. We got so busy for having an employee of one, which is me, and then friends and consultants that were helping out in nights and weekends that they had as free time. So it was, and then my partner Conrad at the time. So it was really good to it was crazy the amount of things that we ended up pulling off with just a handful of people. And it's still funny now to think that people think we're much larger than we are. In some of the comments, like, oh, a big corporation, blah, 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 something. I'm like, it's just, I'm in my basement. This is still a hobby business for the most part, but it's definitely grown since, and we're really honored that we got the chances that we got.
Yeah, there's especially when you're newer in the hobby, you have this kind of like conception that every company is like Wizards of the Coast, and
yeah.
That's the I remember
it's a lot to publish a game. That's why I'm like, this is crazy. I've just found out, like, what was it, Goodman Games? One of the posts I think from like a year or two ago is that like he finally left his full-time job or something. And I'm like,
wow,
what? I'm like, it's Goodman Games. Like,
yeah,
I bought this way back in the day. I'm like, you're talking about this is like your hobby at the time. It's just crazy to see what people can pull off just by the passion they have and the time that they have in between. Because it's, these are low margins. So I get it. I definitely very much get why they need a full-time job and then still do this on the side. But yeah, I mean, I'm thinking every publisher, games are very intimidating to develop in general, just to have the mind to be able to do that and then also get it to market. And then find out how you can make your square box stand out more than everybody else's square box is really, really super tough, especially when it comes to RPGs. I don't know how people write these giant books and then it sits, all you see is a tiny spine. And you just have to hope that it really kicks off and someone reads it. But the amount of art and content that went into it and the years and effort that it went into it is just crazy to me. And making product, you make a keychain, you make a plush, and you sell thousands of those, the margin is about the same. And it's obvious you can see that product. So for me, it was really weird going from product like that where it's licensed toys to content, and seeing how much more effort goes into that, but you still have less visibility and even lower margins. And so I think I found more passion for tabletop in general by entering it and learning all of that than before I joined.
Yeah, it definitely. I've seen a lot of stories where it's like, people that have to have like either side jobs or significant others that have decent jobs that they're able to do it.
Yeah, my wife's my healthcare, so
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's one of those like, go talk to your local game store about the margins that they're making. Especially if you're like, oh, I can get this online. Sure, if you want your game store to close.
Right. Yeah. No. And that was, I always knew that I've always supported my comic book stores and game stores. And anytime I'm there, I'll find a reason to buy something I don't even need just to say I did, so that when things go south, especially during COVID, was, it's like, hey, we need help. I'm like, you better not shut down. Here's a donation. And it all comes back. I like the community aspect of all of this has been really cool.
Yeah, that's why there's a delicate balance there, because where people talk about like game stores are dying and this sort of thing. I feel like there is some truth to that, but it's also a matter of bad game stores and bad companies are dying.
That's
to where,
it.
like,
That's
you can't just like skate along anymore.
No. This is, and this industry specifically is insanely hard. And if you're not learning from other people if you're not always looking up and learning, then you're failing. The only reason that we're still here is the amount of people and friends I've made that have been in this industry forever and have told me what to do, you either listen to the advice or you don't. You can make your own mistakes if you'd like. But if I could avoid a lot of them and avoid a lot of, expensive mistakes, I'd love to hear how to do that.
And you can even have good intentions. Like, I mean, there's hardly a show goes by that we don't talk about all the issues that CMON's going into, where they make great products, but if it's just not managed right, or if you try and do too much too fast, you just kind of crumble on your own weight in all the logistics.
Yep, that's exactly. They are. There's a lot of, and that's why we move so slow. Is I'd rather quality products, keep testing the market, making sure that we can maximize what we have out there. Because right after Here's of Arcadia came out, that was the thing. I was like, well, what's your next game? And I'm like, oh, we're not a publisher. Like, we just make product. This is just like a product game. They're like, well, I want to inform you that you are a publisher now. And I'm like, oh. I was like, I guess I am. You're right. I was like, this is super weird. I'm like, because that's just a whole different mindset. I'm like, I've never even read what it's like to be a publisher. I'm like, I have no clue. So let's talk to people who know what they're doing. Together Studios, like Keith and Jen have been super helpful. There's just tons of people, not fantastic. There's a lot of people in this industry that have been super helpful, or at least knew the ThinkGeek side, and so they're a little bit more willing to help because they knew we were just trying to spread the love from what ThinkGeek was and try to keep that heart alive that that was in there without all the corporate-y stuff that went on. Now we still have passionate people trying to make it here. We have a lot of skills. What can we do to serve this space as much as possible? And so we've been getting a lot of really cool help from that. But I think that's just what happens here. There's a lot of obviously negative stuff that goes on too, and people that have their opinions on things, or just people that are just crappy people that just happen to be in our space. But that's everywhere in every industry. So it's just seems more, I guess, something to focus on here because there's so much heart and then there's so much of the other side.
Yeah.
And rather than just, we're not working in finance or in some hospital. So it's a little different.
So it's interesting to hear and learn about the ThinkGeek connection, because now it just makes so much more sense, especially when Rollacrit started doing like a bunch of stuff about all right, it's not showing up, but a bunch of stuff about the messenger bag, the bag of holding.
Yeah.
where it was just
it was funny when the people didn't know who we were, and I'm like, no, we designed those.
Yeah.
Like, we're not stealing it from anyone. Like, there is no form factor. That's, it's just, it hasn't been produced in over 10 years. Even when we had it, like the messenger bag itself, we redesigned. And that was the thing, is like, because of ThinkGeek, there was a lot of great things about it, but also we had goals to hit. We had we were publicly traded. We had a board of directors that we needed to satisfy. We had licenses and MGs we had to, fulfill, and there's a lot of obligations. So we had to churn out a lot of product, whether it was the best quality or not. It had to be good enough, and so we didn't want to be good enough because we don't need to answer to anyone at all, except for just, what are we proud to release? Are you embarrassed that you made this product? Okay, well then don't make the product. Or do we need to spend another couple months on working on this, or can we release it as is? And so we always choose the extra couple months. Let's just take the time and make sure that this is done right, because I want people's first impression from us, even if there is something that fails at some point, that they know that we thought of everything we possibly could have thought of to put it out. And to our own detriment, we haven't released too many things. I mean, Gen Con is a whole pile of product every year, and that's what we spend probably half our year on. But the other product we released, like Bag of Holding, that took 2 years. We're working on other bags right now that have also taken about 2 years, and we're still working on it. And we still don't want to announce things until we feel comfortable that we have a good form factor, the quality, the seams are right, the right material. So it still, honors what we've done in the past. But what would we have done if we didn't have a board of directors and that wasn't a limiting factor? What are all the things we could put in that still makes the bag somewhat affordable? Like, we can't put everything on the planet in there, because then it would just be unattainable. But what still, respects the form and upgrades the quality to all the product. And that's what's great is, you just go to Wayback, read all the negative comments there have ever been for any of those products, and then just make sure that you solve all of those issues.
Oh, that's not unachievable at all.
Yeah. I mean, that's why it took 2 years. I'm like standing in the bag trying to rip it. And every time it rips, I'm like, all right, we got to put more seams in. There's something else we got to do. I'm like, let's go back. And then the factory wants to kill us because we've gone like through 9 samples. So it's just like, are you going to make an order or not? And I'm like, oh, this is even an order yet. We have to run a Kickstarter. And they're like, oh my God. And so we like to harass our factories.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
How's the I don't have the Kickstarter pulled. How's the reception to the bag been on the flip side? Because one of the things is, especially when you're talking about like all the time it takes to create it, because it's also, we're in a different world now than we are than like 10 years ago, where it's like, I remember the Bag of Holding originally being like $80, I think is what it was, and like you look on your website, it's like 165, and
it was 50, then went to 75. So just to let you know, so yeah, back then, the reason it wasn't made ever again is because we were losing money on it. So I was just like, there is no way. And that's what kind of the first sticker shock was, what's the cost of, here's all the things we want. Here's here's what we're looking to do. And what's the cost on that? And then when I got the number back, I was like, you'll be out of your mind. Like, yeah, like that's just what it is. And especially if you want all the sew points, because these are all handmade bags. They're not, you can't automate this. There's a bunch of people sewing this by hand all together, and it takes a very long time. When I'm asking them to do 2-3 stitches at the same spot, that just takes very long to make these bags. And so, for the original bag, it had just basic pockets, had basic everything. So the cost would have been much lower than what we have right now. But also, even by the time it got in and landed, you have freight shipment, you have it to get to the warehouse and all that. I'm a super nerd when it comes to math. And so that's where I looked at all the math of what it would have been and what the cost would have been. And there was no way that happened. And so I was like, okay, well, that's why we never reprinted them or remade them towards the end, because someone came in, analyzed that and said, why are we selling this bag that we're losing money on?
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, let's not lose money, see how that works. And we also looked too in eBay. In eBay, the secondary market for the old Bag of Holdings for nostalgia was like, I think $125, $150. We had to buy some samples too. I had my original. I didn't want to give that away.
Right.
And so we had to buy some to get to the factory. And so we had to pay $150 for them. $175, I think, for another one. And so we had to buy a bunch from eBay just to get the old form factor back and see what we could do to totally change it. And then also on top of that, since we produced the bag at ThinkGeek at that time, 10 years ago or whatever, was there was no tariff on. Now there is a 35% bet. Well, now there's $1 million in tariffs. But at the time we made the Kickstarter, it was 35% tariff on cotton bags. And so now on top of the cost, we had to pay another 35% on top of that. And freight went up because it's been up since the COVID. So all of that pricing for our landed units ended up becoming just a really high landed cost. And so for us to be able to get it to market, pay for all the R&D and all of just what it takes to actually run all that stuff, and then be able to still get into a price point that it could be wholesale at, that's where we got to the number. And we're like, well, let's see how it does, because we're proud of this bag. We could water it down, but that's what we're trying to work against. That's the complete opposite goal of us. If this doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But we're proud of what we did. And then it worked. I think people saw that and knew, at least from I think some of the values that we have as a company, we're trying not to just talk about, because we don't really talk about a lot of that and are about us. Like, hey, we care about our, like, everyone can say that. But the proof is in the product. And so if you can actually have that product come through and people love it, and if something goes wrong, because again, it's handmade, so there are some issues on some bags from time to time. There's just, I think it's a 1% defective rate on most products, depending on what factory you go with and what you're doing. Replace them. This is an anomaly, but it's also a handmade thing. And so I was very happy to see how well it did. The straps, all the other accessories to bring it into, the market as well, were there. And those are the things you can always add the bells and whistles on to, but at least, here's the base that we want to. What can we peel off to try to reduce the price and just sell it as an add-on if people want to have it? Especially like that shoulder pad. Some people don't need it, but I'm like, if you really pack that thing up, you're going to want it. It was, I think the experiment of what people are looking for now is they want to buy less, or at least one, in my view, is people are buying less, but buying better quality things. And so, except at Gen Con, everyone just buys everything because you're at Gen Con, and whatever fills your endorphins, it's just, I want everything. I came back with like half a pallet worth of games this year. And, I don't know when I'm going to play them, but I have them now.
Yeah, it was really cool. I got a chance to actually pull up and look at it prior to this interview, and I didn't realize that you guys made it for not only the messenger bag, also doubles as the backpack.
Yeah, so there was a lot of versions of the ThinkGeek version. I think we did like 3 or 4 different iterations of it, depending on what.
Pretty sure I have all 4, because there was the purse of holding that my wife,
the handbag of holding,
the handbag of holding that my wife has. I got given by a friend the original messenger bag of holding. I bought the backpack of holding for myself.
Oh, the brown one. The brown one.
The brown
one.
The
roll top.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my first one was the convention bag of holding,
nice.
Which that's like, in our local group, that has become, or that bag, when we started going, I took it to Gen Con in like 2026 with a bunch of friends, and they all saw me have it, and they like immediately went out and bought it, because I think at the time it was like $35 or something like that.
Yep.
And
and that was the staple there too, because that was when I started the events department. That was the thing that was, hey, these bags are selling. Let's make a con version of this. And when we made it, why all the pockets were the certain ways, because we were selling a secondary kit.
Yeah.
That never was released. There was like a hand sanitizer, a battery, all this stuff that was like in the bag, and then you could buy the kit that goes in the bag as your survival guide thing. And then we didn't end up sourcing that product. So, but yeah, no, it was fun. Do you have the yellow piped one, or do you have the green?
The green one.
Okay, so that was with the rebrand. Yeah, the yellow piped one. There's only 500 of those.
Oh, okay.
So that was the first version. That was our old brain logo from ThinkGeek.
Right.
And so I have mine. I try to keep it as clean as possible. That was my the sample that we got, and I was like, this is amazing. And so I have that's after we had the success on this one. that's where people were talking about was like, when is the handbag coming out? When's the con bag coming back out? And we're like, you know,
we can
we'll
either
see.
confirm or
We'll
deny
see.
anything.
We'll see when we're done harassing our factory on on seeing if that's possible. But yeah, we looked at all the things that were positives, all the things we wanted to change. What if, and then what are the bags that you currently use, and how can we integrate that into this bag, and how do we keep the same form factor in the aesthetics, right? The aesthetics is the nostalgia part, so we couldn't
Right.
really change the outside material at all, or else that would have been pointless. We had the black one that we did in like that different plasticky material towards the end. That was just not great. But this is where it is. This is the bag. And so the book bag straps ended up coming off because they kept ripping. So we just enforced the hell out of it to put them in here. I am not a big fan of a bag that holds tech and things like that without being waterproof. And so that's why we had to put the that little rain sock over there, because we couldn't really, like, we're figuring like, let's do this. Anyone who knows how to wax canvas will wax it. And so that's a lot of people are like, oh, I waxed my bag, and I'm like, that's awesome. It's perfect, because we didn't want to send it pre-waxed, because then you have to keep it up. So unless we just wanted to keep it the same way. We also did make sure that we could be on in flights without a problem. It could fill up. We made it larger. We put the secret pocket in, to add a little bit of our, it's never just a product at Rollacrit. There's always an extra thing that we want to make sure that we hide in everything that we do. And there's always an extra thing in everything we do. And either people find it or they don't. We never really tell them. This one we kind of did. We said there's a secret pocket, but we never told anybody where it is.
Nice. So was it hard? Because unlike here's a Barcadia where like that was a product from another company. Like even if it was the same people working on it, where there's like rights and legality issues to that of getting, even if it's just like the name and just the patents or whatever. I don't know.
What for Heroes of Barcadia?
No, for the bag of holding. I'm saying unlike.
Bag. So it's not, and that's with this. It's never, there is no patents, there's nothing. Bag of holding is, you can't trademark it. And so if someone else makes if you go to Etsy and you type in bag of holding, you'll see a whole bunch of bag of holdings. And there's nothing that, D&D will go and do, because it's a bag of holding. That's like
right.
a pocket of holding. It's like, that's what it is. It's the form factor. And so, the logo is different. At least we changed that. But what we did is, because technically what we're doing, at least with it being produced, is it hasn't been produced for so long that we're also there. And then we also changed the bag enough where all we had to do is change this to like a green plastic material, and it's technically something completely different. The only thing we kept the same was the outward material, color, and the weight. Aside from that, everything is different. Upgraded zippers, upgraded everything, metal everything. I mean, that the straps that go on that latch I'm 250 pounds.
Yeah.
And I can hold on to it and it doesn't break. Like the amount of testing we did, we should have filmed it all. And that's what we were saying. We're like, why didn't we? It's ridiculous. No. I'm standing alone in my office, like trying to break this bag, and I'm not filming it.
That's TikTok content there.
I know, but we're not. That's the thing, is like, I'm 40. Like, all of this stuff, and I worked in marketing at ThinkGeek, so I mean, I should be thinking about that stuff. But to us, it's just we have to work so fast and we work so late hours that's just like, all right, next sample came in. All right, guys, let's tear it up. See if we can tear it up. If I can't tear it up, I send it to the next guy or product manager, see if he could destroy it. And like, oh, the zipper rips. Like, okay, perfect, great, find that. Go tell them out. What else can we break? So, and then just using it and seeing, okay, well, if we couldn't break it, then we used it for a week or two. And then what are the things that we hated? Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't I use it? And so we wrote all those things down and changed them all. And so we just did that for a really long time. We do that with most of the product we have, especially that we come out with. And, there are those other bags that potentially are going through that same process right now.
Nice. And hopefully the reception's been really well.
It is. And honestly, this year at Gen Con, we had to ship 2 more Sprinter vans full of the bags because we sold out of our allotment by Friday.
Wow.
I was like, this is insane. And everyone's like, well, this is the Gen Con bag. I'm like, well, it's not the Gen Con bag. just to let you know, it's not Gen Con license. This is a Rollacrit bag. We are also the Gen Con store, which is hard for people to understand because a lot of people will complain to Gen Con about something or complain to us about something that where's the Gen Con something, or my badge was never refunded. I'm like, that's not us. And they're like, oh, well, and they get mad. I'm like, no, we're a totally different company. we're
just a
have
vendor.
Yeah. So it's been good. But I mean, Gen Con's been super amenable to it. And that's why we have 2 Gen Con straps. We'll be making more Gen Con straps as well and stuff that'll go onto it because they also love what we're doing and they're super supportive of us as a company, which has been really helpful to say the least.
Nice. Now, is there any goal to have you expanded to any other conventions besides doing Gen Con?
Yeah, I mean, we go to PAX Unplugged. I'm based in Delaware. I grew up in South Jersey, and so PAX U is our show. So that's like kind of our year wrap. We send everyone to that show. We kind of overfill it with people just because it's like that's our first time. We're a fully remote company, so it's our time we get to all see each other and hang out physically. So we love going to that. We went to PAX East for the first time last year. That did really well. We're looking to expand. There's 2 new guys that just joined that'll be running a lot of our events now. So I'm trying to get an events team that goes to other shows and kind of spread the word out. It's tough because the logistics and the product needs for that is a whole. I mean, you're starting a business and shutting it down after the weekend and then coming up with a P&L to see how much money you made or lost or whatever. But I was like, if we can break even, that's a great goal just to get awareness out and get us out to different shows. And also talking to people, because that's the best feedback we'll get. And also getting people to get to know who we are, to realize that, we're not a giant, ridiculous company, no matter how well our Kickstarters do. And also that we're normal people too. So it's just good. I think when you meet someone, it's always so much easier than whatever happens online. And if someone's angry about something, it's so much easier to fix it at the show floor. And it's just like, I had this for weeks and this thing hasn't been working on my bag. And I'm like, all right, well, here's a new bag.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to be mad.
Right.
They're like, oh, okay. I thought it was going to be that hard. I'm like, yeah. Like, I mean, it depends on what it is, but it's just so much harder to communicate online. And so I like that personal aspect, which is why I really wanted ThinkGeek to be at events and started that events department too. Because I was like, why aren't we're ThinkGeek? We're a community company. Why aren't we where the community is? So, and they're like, oh, we didn't have anyone who wants to run this because it's really hard to run an event. And I'm like, okay, so I'll do it.
Yeah, can I imagine? Because, it's not like you just prop up, show up with a van, dump a bunch of stuff on a table, and there's the cost of just the booth rental, all the equipment you need, and then there's the logistics.
You can do that. You can just come in. There's a lot of people that do that, and that's completely fine because that's what they can do. I mean, but I'm driving a 28-foot box truck, 14 hours across the country for Gen Con. Like the Gen Con store I drive that truck. If that truck does not show up, we don't have Gen Con products.
Right. But I mean, even then, to work the booth, you need people, which you either have to compensate somehow. Those people need hotel rooms,
and they need food.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
They need to smile and be nice to people.
I can only imagine how hard it is just to make any sort of profit at a convention.
Right. And so that's the thing is, at least we were lucky enough that we had a good crew of people that had the same kind of heart that I had to keep this going. And that's what propped up the company in the beginning. And then we made a lot of friends along the way who've been propping the company up too, just by that. And knowing how we are and how we treat people and how we just want to be known for. I don't do anything I wouldn't be proud of or would embarrass myself. And I wouldn't do anything that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't ask anybody in my team to do anything that I wouldn't do either. We're not stacking a room full of 6 people and stuff like that. You could, and I honestly don't judge people who do, because if everyone agrees to it and that's what you need to do to get the show done, then do it. It's survival. If you really are that passionate, you'll find those people that are doing that. And so I don't shun any of the people that do something creative, or at least, take friends and family to help work the booth. We see kids working behind the booth, or like their son or nephew or something like that. That's always fun to me because, it's hard to find people that want to work that are younger, that understand what this is, let alone people that are just passionate for it. And hey, you want to take it to Gen Con, you live there locally, like you work a shift for me and you get to do whatever you want and walk the floor. And if you do really well, I'll probably buy you a whole bunch of games. Just because when I'm super happy about that, I'm just like, yeah, sure. You want to, like, I wanted to get that game. I'm like, I'll just go over there and get it.
Nice.
It's just, so it's been, it's a clubhouse that we all still, like, you have to work.
Yeah.
To be able to reward people. So it's, the work hard, play hard thing everyone keeps saying. But again, it's, we really try to embody that as much as possible. Make sure that we know what we're doing, have the forecasts out, do all the math, look at everything that could possibly go wrong, prepare for all of it. And then when nothing does and everyone just is happy, then awesome. I feel like all of that kind of goes to show. And so you have a lot of fans that are like, hey, in the beginning it was kind of like, I like Offworld, I like Offworld. I'm like, we like Offworld. Like, oh, but Rollacrit, I don't know if the styles worked out. It's like, it is definitely different than what Offworld was doing for sure. But it's an acquired taste. So you either end up converting over or you just never like it and you don't, and that's fine. Like, I don't buy a lot of things, and there's not a lot of things that you can convince me to buy if I don't want to buy it. And so it's, we try to serve as many people as we can, but it's not going to always happen that way. And so, we always look at everything as constructive criticism, for anything that does come through. Just because it's business. So that's what you have to look at it for. So it's the easiest place to grow as fast as you want in this industry. I like.
Nice. So one last question for you. Has there been any discussion about bringing back the April Fool's Day products?
So,
or at least the topic.
We used April Fools as like our announcements in the beginning. Like, so when we announced that the Kickstarter was coming out for our Heroes of Arcadia, we did it on April Fools.
Nice.
And so we wanted to keep that up. We then brought that up to Gen Con, and so now for Gen Con, we help them with their April Fools thing that they do. We usually try to do something, but since Gen Con's been taken over, that's one thing. But as in the form that ThinkGeek was in for April Fools, I don't think it'll ever get to that, because the amount of effort that went into creating big products, getting the licenses to agree to us even doing the joke. We have product people literally like prototyping fake things. So they're in the workshop, like 3D printing stuff and like molding all these things. Like, it's just insane. So it was such a huge process, and it took so much of our marketing team's time, that we made videos. So if you look up ThinkGeek April Fools, there's always a wrap-up video, because we made videos for all of them too. And so all the videos are still up. But then there's a wrap-up video that shows like all the behind the scenes of how much effort went into all of these products. And all, like, I mean, I think one of the ones I was in was like the giant hula hoop that had all these like GoPros all around it. Like, they had to make that. We had to shoot that. That was an entire day of just shooting the video.
Oh my gosh.
Let alone making the product and all the money that goes into it. And so we got a lot of press from it, and it was really cool. And I think a lot of people started following that same trend. But, it was money to burn. We don't have money to burn yet.
Right.
So, at least until, I'm not sitting in my basement. That is probably something that we would definitely love to bring back. And even in a small form, we're going to try to bring that back now. We just brought in the old art director from ThinkGeek just this last month, is now one of our new employees. We don't have a lot of them. And so he just came over full time. So he was one of the ones that did a lot of that effort and worked on a lot of those things, and can really help us, build that back in. And he's kind of brought in to build our lifestyle brand back up, because we've been so distracted by Gen Con, Heroes of Arcadia, and the Bag of Holding, that we haven't really focused on what Rollacrit is.
Right.
Oh yeah, Rollacrit, but you're Heroes of Arcadia. I'm like, well, yeah. Like, we're like building these like sub brands inside of like an umbrella of Rollacrit, and that's fine. But it's just because we spend so much time in marketing on one specific product that it seems like it's its own brand, because that's what a lot of people do. A lot of them, because a lot of people don't have the attention span they used to have to shop a website that has a bunch of things on it.
Right.
It's like, I sell this one thing and that's it. And that's what my website is. And it's like, because that's what you have the attention, TikTok, any of these ads. So you click on it, you get to it, you add it to your cart at the end. If you don't want it, you don't go there. For us, we're trying to do that a whole bunch of times under one name. But the lifestyle part is really what we're working on next, aside from, expanding out some of the other lines we have. But Heroes of Arcadia is one of my favorite things. And so that will never go away. There's the amount of content we have lined up for that is ridiculous. It's just, we need more artists we can try to find that'll match that style, because we're just limited. I mean, the guy who designs it, Matty O'Neill, is a full-time employee at Lego. So he's got, he's working nights and weekends from Europe. And it's just like, it's crazy that, we're still in that kind of scrappy form and doing how we're doing. But it's, aside from the friends we have and also the community being so supportive of us, has been how we're still here now. And so we're just super lucky.
Awesome. So what is the next thing that, at least that you've announced publicly, that you're looking forward to, either product or release? Or
Well, we just finally released Heroes for Hire. So we had the third Kickstarter that we've done, second Kickstarter for Heroes of Arcadia, the expansion of the mercenary packs and also the Die of Arcane Chaos. So there's all the people that were like, we're the gateway people, but then there's all the crunchies, right? All the people that have like played deep games and like, yeah, Heroes of Arcadia is like a decent drinking game, whatever. And I'm like, challenge accepted. And so now we just tossed in a whole bunch of more chaos in. And so as you buy it, that's the thing, is you could just buy the game and never buy anything else and you're still fine if that's the level you're up to. But if you're looking to challenge yourself a little bit more, a lot of the things that we ended up doing in the new packs will definitely make it a lot more challenging, because you card stack and things. There's power-ups that match with loot cards that are more powerful combinations. And so because I play Magic a lot, to me, I'm like, the game, even in its base form, like if you're just playing it face up, sure. But if you're thinking about cards because you've played it a couple times, then you're like, okay, cool, I got the Frizzle Staff, I got the Poison Dagger, like I'm gonna jump places and just stab people to death. And like, you have all these different combos you could do to just harass people, and it's a lot more fun once you can play that way. And now we give a lot more in that content, the additional content. We're also building a lot more lore for Arcadia in general, because people wanted that. We have a really active Facebook group that's been giving us a lot of really cool content and suggestions, just seeing people how they're playing it, what they like, what they don't like, and taking all those notes. And we have weekly meetings just talking about it and what can we do better. And so now we have the Halloween pack we just released, the Boozoos pack we released at Gen Con that's out as well. Those two products were not in the Kickstarter. And then we have a holiday pack we'll be releasing in November that this is the first time I'm telling anybody about. And so that content's coming out. And then we have hopefully at PAX Unplugged this year, we'll be talking about the next thing. But, I like to underpromise.
Nice.
We'll see.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think I already gave a couple hints anyway. It's just whatever people have been asking the most for. It's just like, we don't want them to get tired of it, because, it's 2 years since the bag has been out, or at least the Kickstarter was rad. And so it's just crazy to think that that's how much time went by. I mean, Heroes of Arcadia finally got into Target this year. We just started wholesaling 2023, or no, we started selling in 2023, and now this is our first full Q4 that we have it under control and into distribution. So it hasn't even gotten to most people yet. So that's why I'm like, we have just started seeing the beginning of this, and it's really cool that it has the longevity it has. But it's still, every time we run a new print, we have to go through a lot of effort to make sure that the quality is up to standard, because it's just a really hard thing to make. Printing on paper is something I wish we did, but we decided to make everything waterproof. And so printing on plastic is just very expensive and very hard to keep consistency of. And it's just been, we really like challenging ourselves constantly.
Awesome. Well, so thank you very much for talking with us. Where do people what's the best place for people to keep track of what's coming next?
Definitely follow, or you sign up to our email at rollacrit.com. We do not harass you. We'll send you an email specifically on exactly what you want. And if you're getting an email for something you don't want, just select what you want to hear about. I am not a fan of getting a bunch of useless email. And so I assume that you are not a fan either. And so if I'm sending you an email of something that's brand new that came out, something that you probably haven't seen before, or a sale or something like that that you need to take advantage of, because we also don't have tons of those.
Thank you so much for watching this episode. I'm working on hopefully fixing some of the issues, but thank you for watching the episode. And remember, feedback@boardsandswords.com is where you want to go to give us information on what you liked, didn't like about the show, who we should have on next, all that kind of stuff. You can go to Facebook and Instagram now. I changed them so they both have the same thing. Facebook.com, Instagram.com/boards&or-swords. And it'll take you to our new page. I'm going to try and post more stuff up on there as I try and do better about the social media thing. So check us out on there. Keep an eye on the Patreon. We'll be back soon with another show. This one kind of threw us all out of whack, but we'll be back with kind of a PAX Unplugged preview real soon. So in the meantime, remember that every gamer has a story, and this one just was cut off a little too soon.